doing some of these jobs, sometimes I don't think they should even be fucking doing them. They shouldn't even, Ford shouldn't even let them.
They shouldn't be doing jack diddly.
Some people just
live.
they don't have pride in their work, though. What's the problem?
That's a problem with a lot of things.
Big time.
If people would just learn to slow down, take their time, get used to their job, become proficient in the job, and as you do that, you start to become better at doing it, and then that speed comes with the proficiency and you learning the job, and it just it naturally just comes to you.
Yes, sir. I will second that. I mean, that's with anything. That's not just with what we do.
Right.
I learned a lot.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back here. DS, sorry to cut you off. Got everybody chiming in here in the chat, popping it out. Let's see. Move this out. What did I just do? What is up? Power Stroke. Brandon Power Stroke. There we go. Arm Prophet. What up? Michael Adams. I hope you figure out your pin. Sometimes they're a little hard to get in. Maybe, yeah, we were talking swap that boy 180 and try pushing in. Vince, Georgia. Brian. Yeah, the Crown of Shame. No, it was really cool. I got to get it actually set up to make sure it is all hooked up with TeamViewer, and it's I think there's an update for it, so we got to make sure we got everything hooked up and ready to go. Hello, Bradford. What up? I wanted to extend everybody again, like we did last week. It was pretty good response with everybody and bringing their problems. We got a couple things written down here on the old notebook that we're going to talk about. Super Duty shop, some stuff here on some bulletins that I've been watching. I'd like to share with you guys. Who do we got here? Live in action. Today's short. Yesterday's. No, was it today's? Yes, it was today's. Check out SNS's Instagram page. They're calling for anybody out there in the field that has their Gen 2 disaster prevention kit on it. They want feedback from out in the field. I have a bunch of kits on my clients' trucks. Haven't had any issues. I don't know anybody who has had a failure yet with a kit on it. I just know that people who having the one kit from somebody else having low fuel pressure problems. I've heard it more than a dozen times. So I would definitely be looking towards the SNS for that. Peace of mind. Check out AccurateDiesel.com. Ask for Tim. He's got the replacement filters and the kits. Stop fooling around and just get it on your truck. It's something you can do. Ford Boss Me can do. You guys can reach out to him. If you guys are in the central time zone, closer over to Chicagoland, if you're in the Florida area, southern states, CPs can take care of that for you. And then here, if you're in the Metro Detroit area or in the surrounding neighborhoods, I can assist you guys on that. But we got Zekester in here. He is the guy that has the most colorful emojis in my comment section. I appreciate you, buddy. I look forward to all your comments, Zekester. He's right there. Where was he? Emmanuel. Emmanuel says he's got a problem with the particulate matter sensor lost communication. I put a new sensor, but the problem's still idle engine. Interesting. Oh, aloha from Hawaii. Putting overtime right now at Honolulu Ford. Wow, really? Brother, you should email me and let's get you live right now, overtime from Honolulu Ford. That'd be way cool to have you come over here for a little bit while you're working. Zoom you on the phone there in the shop. Email me up. The problem with the PM sensor, I don't know. Ford Boss Me, you ever seen the PM sensor communication?
No.
I guess we need to know a little bit more about the truck or if there's any codes, but
I'm talking to Aaron. I have.
oh really?
Is there anything plugged into the OBD2 port? Anything
Mm-mm.
connected to the CAN network? Is it like a 24 D something like that?
We don't have any
I mean, I've seen a ton of them, especially on 17s and 18s. So
oh, looks like one of my giveaway winners, Brandon Powerstroke, says he got that Putco light installed, spliced in, flawless. Hey, I deserve a pick. I want to see it in action. I'm glad that worked out for you. That's awesome. Awesome.
And did has Itsamia or Vanderpool used those ratcheting wrenches yet? I want to know how they like them.
They're in here. I saw it's a Mia. Skidoo, what up? Armed Prophet. I don't know how to answer that.
I answered it.
There you go. Okay, I didn't go down.
My driveway. You don't want to deal with my shop.
What's good? What's good? Hey guys, I'm messing with the connector. Install some bed lights from Limitless. Yeah. But now I got a check park aid light when backing. Is it the same connector? I don't believe so because the park aid is in the bumper harness and the bumper harness is on the driver's side of the trailer hitch, like up, not on the trailer hitch, but above those connectors, like up, up there. I just actually had one while I was making a video, and I wound up inadvertently causing a parkade fall. I don't know what the heck I did, but it wound up. I had to fix a broken wire. Actually, pulled out of the left rear outer sensor. The wire pulled right out of the connector. So I don't know how in the heck I messed around, but that's definitely not in that connector that you were working with, though. Unfortunately.
And to
cool
do
kit
it,
though.
to do a quick check, if it's not a park aid deal, grab a automotive stethoscope from Harbor Freight or somewhere like that, and put the stethoscope on and go to each one of your sensors in the bumper and listen for the ticking sound. It'll tick, 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 and make sure each one of them are giving you that tick signal, that sonar tick signal. It's a quick check. It's really fast. And that'll give you an indication whether or not, and it doesn't have to be in reverse.
That was
Wow.
actually going to be coming out here soon. Really neat way to check the functionality if your park aid is working. So you guys gotta definitely stay tuned for that. I want to know if any of you guys have had, particularly just the Luminuti guys, if you guys have had issues with your heated seats not working, like you hit the button and the lights don't go on, or like the lights, the red lights or the blue lights, like nothing works. I have had it myself. My coworker has had it, and actually recently, Limitless has had it. He had a 17 Illumiduty late build 16, and heated seats didn't work. And what he found was the driver's seat module underneath the passenger seat could not pull the connector out. The ground was melted. and I don't know if there was an internal short in the module or whatever, but it wound up making that not work. So after my coworker did it, I have done one. He is actually gonna make something to, I guess, if you have this issue, to make it better for next time. Instead of putting on the same kind of connector, he's got a little thing he's going to add a pin to support that ground that is actually melting. So I want to feel out you guys if you guys are actually having that issue, because I know I've seen it twice, and if he's seen it, I know it's got to have been
I've seen
happening
it a lot.
to you guys.
I've seen it a lot. It's the type of material that the connectors are made of. If you look at if the pins are made of, if you look at the history of Ford with the connectors that go into those modules, they've even had updates that were put out with TSPs saying go to this type of connector. But even when you go to the new type of connector, it's not much better material anyway. I mean, we've had this issue for years with these connectors and that type of pin material. Fred, I've talked to Fred about it in the past and stuff like that when I'm kind of venting about things that I'm dealing with. And I've updated the connectors and the same type of things still happen. So every once in a while, this is not something I recommend every single person doing, but if you're in that all the time and you're using those heated seats all the time, I would recommend actually unplugging those connectors every once in a while and plugging them back in just to make sure that they're free, that nothing's going on.
That's a good idea.
They can melt really bad, and to the point where you're having to pry the connector apart to the point where you are going to replace it.
That's a good point. Or at least maybe apply some dielectric grease or something. It's funny when you look at the module, I'm just giving you a vague description so you guys can picture with me. So this is a 10-pin connector. The top row has 5, the bottom row has 5. The corner top one is ground. You skip one, and then the next 3 are used. Well, if you unplug the connector, there's 10 pins, but there's only one terminal at the end, which is the ground. Well, if you get a new module and check the continuity between the corner pin and the pin right next to it, they're connected. This one's ground. This one's ground. So what we actually did was didn't depin the connector, left 10 pins and spliced, spread the load out with using 2 grounds in that connector instead of it all going through just one. And maybe that's why it melted. Maybe that connector needs to be redesigned or redid in a better fashion that would better spread the load out over that ground side to not have that melt, because that module's running both seats, not just one. So
we got a question here, Aaron, that you helped me with, and now I pretty much know the system because I feel like a damn fool when we check it out. But it's a Zetonium Nyborg 2012 F-150. The light comes on, but the driver's seat doesn't heat. Passenger seat works. Remember, there's 3 systems in play here. You've got the control head, you've got the module under the seat, and you've got the grid in the seat, and then you've got wires in between. If the light's turning on, that doesn't necessarily mean that module underneath the passenger seat is getting a good signal saying to turn on the heating pad for the driver's seat. I failed, and I ended up having to eat a $160 module under that passenger seat because I didn't go into the actual data logger and look to see whenever I was commanding that driver's seat to be turned on, that it was actually identifying that I wanted the seat turned on. And it wasn't. The passenger seat would identify that I was signaling it to come on, but not the driver's seat. So what did I do? I tested the grid. I applied power and ground, and sure enough, it started getting hot right away. So I knew the grid wasn't the problem. I tested the wires all the way back. That wasn't the problem. I went into the data logger and I turned on. I seen the lights light up, but it never actually commanded the heating pad to turn on. It was the actual control head that I ended up having to replace because it would see that I wanted it, but it wouldn't send out the signal to the module to actually turn the pad on.
Wow. Man, that's sometimes the interconnected stuff is just you know what I do miss? I wish they would that was one of my notes. Improvements. I miss the 6-liter steering wheel where you could actually control the temperature and the fan. If you had the automatic temperature control, you guys know what I'm talking about, the 6.0 dudes, the old
The
not old.
steering wheel I want to put in my truck.
Yeah, I like that. I like those buttons. Those buttons, the rubber on the buttons are real, you know. They were good buttons. Chris James. So I'm curious, how bad is the idling overnight? Almost daily. I haul for a living, so I prefer to idle to keep warm or cool depending on the weather. Well, they're made to work. What happens if you're driving for 18 hours? I mean, what happens if you're driving for 10 hours? You just kept going because you had fuel tanks. Well, I mean, essentially it would be the same thing. Remember, everybody knows, we should say it together, how many miles is equivalent to 1 hour of idling?
25.
What is it?
About,
There it is.
yeah, most people will say 25 to 30. I say I always give people the worst end of it because I want them to feel like they have to be conscious of it. So I'll say something like 30 to 35. But Cody's right. It's supposed to, the rule of thumb is 25 miles per 1 hour of idle time. And if you guys remember, I had a video that made it to the drive.com. Even our famous automotive geek YouTuber that none of us really cared to listen to did a story on the video that I did. And it's not necessarily a good thing to idle those trucks all the time because we know what'll happen, but you got to get them off idle. If we could get them up to 1,000 RPM or something like that, 1,100 RPM, they'd be better off than sitting down at base idle, causing some issues.
We got
Now,
a video for that.
is that more temperature
got a
dependent?
video.
So if you're in cold weather, should you high idle? But if you're in the summer climate, would you just let it idle normally?
No,
If you had to idle it,
I would be at high idle.
even in warm weather?
Gotta
You
keep
really
the
need-
exhaust. You gotta keep the exhaust temperature up.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
When I've had my truck idling, I noticed even in the summer, it high idles on its own. The computer just, it kicks up from time to time and just,
It burns out the hydrocarbons in the SCR DPF. That's why.
Very nice.
You see it more in the winter because it smokes. It smokes heavier in the winter.
Backdoor latch is freezing up. White lithium grease. Yes and no. The latch itself is probably not the problem. If you got a backdoor latch that's freezing up with as many as that I've done, it's that seal around the bezel that ends up rolling out, and water and stuff, snow and everything else gets down in there as the truck's heating up, and some of that residual cabin heat makes its way around the plastic and stuff and melts. Water gets back down in there. You end up having to pull that door panel apart and re-greasing everything. If your truck is still covered under, what is it, the 18,
Yeah.
Cody, what is it, 18N03 or something like that, or whatever?
I don't know. I stay on the engine side of things.
I think it's like 18N03 or something like that. And if Aaron doesn't have any of the videos up on that, I've got plenty of them up showing people how to tear those things apart and actually re-grease them and everything, make sure they don't start freezing up again on you.
I gotta do mine. That mine freeze every morning. Why do you have to wait to 100% to do OCR? Why can't
'Cause
we
that's
do
Ford.
it when we want to? Yeah, that's totally.
is that a Ford thing only, or is
It is
GM
for pickup trucks, but if you have a cab chassis, you can do a regen. I have a short a long time ago that I made doing a regen. It was at 50%, 55% on a ambulancia. So if I still am in the process of making my forescan video, and one of the forescan moderators, maybe who constantly updates the ForeScan spreadsheets, had reached out to me and is going to give me some info to pass along to you guys about all these new trucks and using ForeScan and doing programming. I had talking about some stuff I've never done with ForeScan, so I'm interested to learn a little bit more about something I didn't particularly like right in the beginning. I'm like, oh, ForeScan, you don't need that. But every 6-7 owner needs an SNS disaster and to get ForeScan, whether it's the extended license for a month, a year, 3 years, whatever you want to do, whether it's going to be letting myself, Ford Boss, CP, remote access and help you fix your truck, you got to have ForeScan. We can't help you without that. And it's something that you guys can use to do a regen whenever you want. If your filter is at 60%, 70%, and I've been telling my guys who have not been able to drive their trucks in a manner that is allowing regen, I said, let's get some good DPF health, get in a regimen of every month, use ForeScan, go get your truck hot, park it here in the driveway, park it where it's safe, and use ForeScan to do an operator command of regen. And it's going to sit there and do a little countdown, and it's going to clean off your filter. You can do it whenever you want, not necessarily when the truck is, say you're just driving 2, 3, 4, 5 miles to work. Hey, I'm going to do a regen every month. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be getting, oh, I got to clean my filter, and then you didn't finish, and then it gets fuller and fuller and fuller, and then you're going to wind up getting into drive problems, which is what we see with aerial boom trucks or landscaper trucks. Have them come in, can't even start because the DPF is so full. Got to crack
Well,
the
the challenge
downpipe
is when it
loose.
doesn't tell you. You don't
Man.
have it turned on and it doesn't tell you the percentage.
Real
That's where you
important.
run into problems.
How do I know when it's regening? We don't even know.
So when it comes to the regen and living with the emission system that Ford has, I will say it is the things that bother me about it is not only can you not do it whenever you want to, say if you're at 95%, you can't just do it and be done with it. If you start, like if the computer decides to start the regen and you turn the truck off for any reason, it's not gonna let you start again until it gets back to 100. So that's where it gets complicated. So say you burn off 10% of the back pressure and you're at 90%. Well, really you should just keep going because you wanna get it, ideally you wanna get it down to 0, but even if you can get it down to 30%, that's better than leaving it at 90 and then having it, because if you stop, it's gonna start. It's gonna have to wait until it gets back to 100 again. That's how you get that cycle. So it's kind of it's just something extra you got to pay attention to from time to time.
Stefan, I hope I'm saying it right. 17 F250. Seat heater lights up, illuminates for both sides. Passenger works, driver does not. When I press the driver's side down within a second or two, I hear a click coming from the passenger side. Goes back to connections. Obviously, from the control head to the module, you're getting a signal. You're hearing that click, that audible click, which tells me you probably have a good control head.
I will pay.
But what you're going to have to worry about now is you're going to have to worry about one of those pins or something being burned up inside that connector. So unplug, go to the passenger seat and unplug the connectors at the heating module with everything off. Look at those pins, make sure nothing's burned up, and then plug everything back in. And you might find that seat starts working again, or you might find that you have a burned up pin inside there. So just because you're hearing the click doesn't mean it's getting a good connection from that module over to the driver's seat. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Control head, module, heater grid. Make sure your connections are good.
Or a Teddy. It could be a Teddy.
Or it could be a TED.
I've had I've replaced a couple of Teddys.
But I find a lot of times the connection is the main issue. But the TED, if I have ForeScan or if I have IDS hooked up and I check to see what codes are present, and you get a thermal overcurrent condition present in the computer, you're going to replace a TED.
What was
Make
a
sure
TED?
Thermoelectric device. It basically will heat up, or it can also remove heat to cool. It's a dual purpose system,
It's like a fan.
and it's a fan with a grid and everything in it. And what happens a lot of times, you have kids, or if you work that truck a lot, if you have items sitting in the back seat, they'll end up getting shoved up under the seat. Stuff will get sucked under the seat. It'll block that fan from being able to cool properly and stuff, and suck air in and discharge and intake properly. So it'll overheat. It'll cause that motor to work too much. And I find a lot of times whenever I'm working those systems, I go look up under people's seats, and they've got plastic bags under there, or a set of jumper cables sucked up to the fan, or some kind of garbage underneath there. All that stuff has to stay clear. You can't have anything underneath there.
Interesting.
What should your normal idle speed be? I don't know, 500 RPM, 550, maybe 600-ish, somewhere around there.
Non-adjustable.
Yeah, non-adjustable. High idle. Yep. Cody the robot. Any update on the fuel pump 21 F250? I have that written down actually. So if you have a wheelbase of 170, this is for the long boys. What is
There we
that?
go. Thanks for that super chat, man.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Who was that? My thing won't scroll down.
Colt 45.
Colt 45. I like a little.
Well,
Two
45 and
zigzags.
2 zigzags.
Wow,
Maybe
look
what
at
they-
That's exactly it.
Uh,
My man. Oh, Fred. I'm sorry. Fred. I asked Cody and I didn't get a response.
I was busy.
Oh, I know, but answer him so he knows, because he's gonna have to work on this tomorrow.
What was the even question? 'Cause I seen it and
Have
I
you
just
had
swiped
problems
it.
with ForeScan programming solenoid ID with valve body? I've never
I
done.
haven't.
used
I've
ForeScan.
never done it
Okay.
yet. So
Sorry, Freddie.
transmissions
I do not know.
transmissions are not my area. If it goes
No.
like, if something goes like this and makes a boom, that's what I work on.
I think I will call this meeting the weekly Power Stroke Council. I like it.
So Jake Rains says that the DPF fills up doesn't affect fuel economy or performance. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't show you the real range. It only shows you a range that, as a customer, what you need to see. So you see 0, you see 100, but the reality is after that 100, there's still a lot more that filter could hold before it would put you into a degenerated state. So there's way more room of operation. It's just that's the range that they want you to stay in before it loses any performance. I don't think there's any performance loss in that range.
No, there's not.
Thanks, buddy.
The instrument cluster is full. When it's at 100 on the instrument cluster, it's full. Unlike the manual regens, the manual regen PID in manual regen is inaccurate. Don't use it.
Let's see. Motorsport.
Wait, what was that?
Says,
What'd you say, CP?
The manual regen PID on the computer is inaccurate. You want to only use the PID in data logger for DPF load, or the instrument panel PID. When it's 100, it's 100%. It's full. It's time to regen.
Oh.
The manual regen PID is erroneous. Don't use it.
So when you're saying the manual regen PID, what are you referring to?
The one that comes up that says 300% full or 200% full, that's erroneous. It's
okay.
Yes, don't use it.
So that's not the one that, as a customer,
As a customer,
you don't see that one.
If you have ForeScan, you will.
Okay, so the one you would see using ForeScan is the one that's inaccurate?
The one on the manual regen setting, or when you go through manual regen, is inaccurate. You use the instrument cluster or the data logger PID because they are accurate.
Okay.
When it says 100%, it's 100% full and it's time for regen.
Yeah.
Cole, what I'm doing is I'm looking at messages. So it's not that I'm unamused. I'm just trying to keep up with comments so I can help the guys answer questions. So I don't want you guys to think this doesn't amuse me, because this does. I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't miss out on the joys of DS. Sleeping
Motorsport
DS.
601 says he's got a 21 5K Lariat Sport Black, same as me. 6.7 high idle. Sometimes I just give it a blip to go down, clicking noises when I roll down the window in the drive-through. That's the same thing I experience. I wouldn't say I have a typewriter noise. I think I just have normal 6.7 tick noise, just injection, normal acoustics that we hear through the engine. I mean, I'm always looking at my oil. I would hope you guys are doing that too, but needless to say, I would say it's probably normal without really hearing the truck. But yeah, good choice in picks.
With that noise, I will say I had a guy come to my house and we did some work on his truck, and I'm listening to his engine and I'm thinking it sounds noisy, like it doesn't sound like mine. Well, he came back a couple weeks later and the noise was gone. So I mean, he had just had his oil changed. It sounded a little noisy, and then by the next time he came, it didn't sound noisy at all. So it could just be timing or whatever, but sometimes mine sounds a little noisy, sometimes it doesn't. So
I'll tell you what, when it's what time of year? Spring, it's still cold, but it's like warm in the afternoon. Like in the morning, when it's still cold, if I'm driving and it's in a regen, you can be by the tailpipe and just ting, 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 ting. You spit on that thing. I mean, I'm not trying to be foul, but if you spit on it, this thing is like,
Don't be nasty.
whoa, thing is hot. You smell it. You feel the heat. The sounds and how the truck's running. People, a lot of guys have said they see their mileage go immediately down when this happens. So I mean, a lot of guys pay attention. Some guys are totally oblivious that the truck even has fuel filters, let alone change the oil and go 60,000 miles and wonder why you got a rod hanging out the side of your block.
you know what?
I have people all the time that want to they want to condemn their vehicle because they hear the ticks coming from the exhaust. I mean, for God's sake, I had my buddy come to the dealer, and I did some pretty extensive work on his town car. You guys know I love Panther platform cars, and he had a brand new exhaust system put on the driver's side, and it's doing the same thing, ticking, tanging. And I was like, dude, my car's got 240,000 miles on it. Granted, it runs like it's brand new, and it does the same thing. Exhausts in all forms make these kinds of ticking sounds, and people just aren't used to it. I don't think until recently people really paid attention to their vehicles all that much.
Well, back in the day, I remember every time you turn off your car, it would sit there and make a ticking noise.
Popping,
now that I think
ticking,
like they don't do that now.
Some of them still do.
Some of them still do.
Yeah, some of them, especially some of these new Explorers and stuff that we get in, and some of the new Super Duties and stuff. Man, they with how hot some of them are running and stuff. I definitely hear it.
Yeah, my engine.
Yeah, hammer down.
It's like when I changed my oil with the T6, I used 0W40 T6 this time around, and I drove home, and I swear it's like my engine's definitely louder now. My engine's definitely louder. And then the next day it was like quiet. I don't know. Every time I get a fresh oil change on the diesel, it seems a little bit louder for the first. It seems like it clicks a little more for the first until that oil circulates for whatever reason. It's a little clicky after an oil change.
Ken Cotton from PA just says typewriter noise is louder in my 2025 50 with a PTO on it.
Whoa.
Just saying.
There we go. Get those super
Who
chats
is
coming,
this?
boy.
Oh, Skidoo, my man. Thanks, buddy. Super effective. Boing. I like that. It was cool. Ken
Whoa.
Cotton, thank you.
There we go.
Core
Cold
45,
weather,
my man. Thank you. My transmission is dipstick vibrating loudly and can't stop it. Anyone experiencing is very annoying when at idle. Also, when what's a safe towing transmission temp? So there's 2 bolts that are holding your trans dipstick tube down. First, I would make sure both of those are tight. I can't imagine them backing out because the one on the trans has got Loctite on it. But I have seen the bracket that holds the tube to the intake actually like hang on by a snaggle tooth, and it's sitting there vibrating. So maybe make sure it's like not sitting there loose, because that might be why it's vibrating. Safe trans temp. What do you guys think? That's going to be kind of dependent on load and what he's towing. But,
yeah, these 10 speeds, they do seem like they run a little hotter.
I agree. I would agree.
I mean, the PCM's going to start derating it anyways when it gets too hot.
I just talked to a guy that said his got up to 270 and he had to replace the transmission. So I would say 270 is not good.
I think we should go with Eli, Ford Assist Asset Tech. 215.
215.
I like it.
He's a
That
smart
seems
guy
like-
when it comes to transmissions.
That seems like a pretty standard temp, because even in other heavy duty applications, they try to keep it somewhere ballpark around like 200 to 220 if they can. So that's not just here. That's even with me working at the HD company, the bus company. When you're monitoring trans temp and stuff and all the different types of buses, you want it to stay somewhere around that too. So that seems like he's got a pretty decent number right there.
Here's one.
I like that 215.
Here's one. P20BA. 100% is a DAF heater sender.
Oh,
or is
yeah.
it something else?
No, you're
No,
replacing it.
watch my video. We got a playlist with DEF videos just for that particular. I got one if you're cab chassis, and I got one for you to pick up part numbers. Yeah. Okay, I got an email from Armed Prophet.
I think Fred is right though. The spec is 220 is at the high side, and I'm pretty sure that's right because I remember that even at the bus company, like I was saying, 200 to 220 is where they'd be, and 220 would be at the high side.
Probably a good time to do that pump too when you're doing that heater.
Yep. Well, now they have the previous coverage on the earlier models, which is a huge benefit to the customer.
Yeah. People have been reimbursed if they have already paid for that repair. It's not that bad to do if you guys are out of coverage, but it's definitely DEF heaters under.
And if you have one of the utility trucks that has more room underneath it, I've seen guys pull the tanks, right? Like they'll work right in that tight area with a nice bright light, and they'll pull it right out of the top. If you're nimble, or like, what would you call it? Am I saying the word right? Nimble enough, you can get in there.
Bimbly and bimbly. It's even nicer if you have a dump
Oh,
truck, tow
for
truck, slide that boy right back, put the dump up. Perfect. But then
So,
there's those ones like you'll have let's say a truck, a cube truck or something, and it's got some saddlebag boxes on, and then you can't get your gun in between the frame and the saddle boxes to get the bolt out. Ugh.
Josh has asked this question about 3 times now, I think. Have you
Okay,
guys done any fuel filter recalls yet? No, I haven't done any of the new ones.
No, it was just a small batch from what I was hearing. Some 650, 750s. I don't know how many of VINs were necessarily affected, but I don't know if there's actually any in my store.
I mean, it was a small number of trucks. I mean,
Man,
it's not like they're going back to earlier parts replaced.
we got a new Super Duty trade-in. The dude doesn't work in the heavy duty field anymore. He's working an office job now. He got promoted to a office position, so he wanted just a regular F-150, no turbo, nothing or whatever. He came in and traded his Super Duty in, and it's a 15 now.
He said no turbo, so like a 5.0.
I think it's like no. He ended up getting like a 3.3 or a 3.5 or one of the older ones or something like that. He wanted just something. Yeah, he wanted out of it completely. But when the truck got traded in, it was after all the technicians had left, and I was still at the shop naturally, and I was live streaming, and I heard this thing pulling, and I was like, man, why does that thing sound kind of healthy? And he was like, because it's healthy. And he said, I put a ton of money into that. And he said that thing's been professionally, programmed and everything else. And he said it's one of the fastest trucks you'll ever get in right there. And he said, unfortunately, I got to come out of it. And he said, I don't know that I've ever been in anything as fast as that thing. And now we have it for sale.
He's going to be heartbroken.
It's got 200,000 miles on it, but he said, I've never had to put a single dime into a fuel system in that truck or anything because it's always been meticulously taken care of. And one of the lube techs the other day, they ran out of work. So they told him, pull that in and go ahead and get it up on the rack and let's UCI it and everything else. I'm talking, man, this kid came back in with the biggest grin on his face and everything else. And he's looking at me and he was like, it's fast. It's fast.
I think we got armed profit. We got armed profit coming in.
I wonder how much they're going to want for that truck, though.
And unfortunately, he's going to be driving a 3.3 now, which is going to be.
That ain't going to even be nowhere comparable. I mean, this thing's got a fuel cell in the back of it and everything. They may pull a fuel cell out. They always do.
Brother.
Hey, A-Rod, what's going on, man?
You got to get your foreskin hooked up, brother.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to get up. Remember, I fell off the fire truck.
Oh.
I'm the guy that fell off the fire truck and developed, had to go into medical retirement, and it's bad. So, yeah, I'm pretty much stuck to bed or a recliner. It's my, 53 years old. Things are done. So.
Well, we'll have to do that next time.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's nice to talk to you.
Absolutely. We appreciate you in the comment section.
Listen, you guys do a great job. DS and Ford Boss Me. You guys are incredible. You guys are absolutely incredible. So
thanks, man.
I tagged. I'm still coming up with it. I'm coming up with a name for you, DS. Haven't found it yet. I'm going to get you a position in the council. But Ford Boss Me is definitely Sergeant at Arms.
Oh yeah, buddy. Let's see. What's this guy say?
We just try to do our thing. We just try to help everybody out.
You do. All of you guys do. You have no idea how much us out here appreciate, even the ones that don't comment, that just watch. It's a plethora of information that most mechanics just want to hold on to themselves because they think it makes them, smarter or makes them maybe not smarter, but makes them more valuable, where you guys share information. And that's a sign of a true leader, someone who's not afraid to share information and help people. And that's
cool.
Awesome.
It's cool to see though, like, cause we only see the trucks that come into our stores, but we have a chance to see, more vehicles, more problems, more experiences on a national scale now, because we're touching so many people. I don't know where you are. This guy's from Texas. This guy's from Florida. This guy's from Washington. It's pretty cool to see what they got going on this side of the country. Jake Rhines asks a good question. I know cab chassis are D-rated, but can you put a non-D-rated engine in a cab chassis? That is all like software and PCM software, wiring harness. The engines are the same.
Turbos are different though, right?
To be honest, yeah. The turbo's different. Exhaust is different. EGR valve is different. What else is different? The software cal is different. Cab chassis don't have
Could you program the cab and chassis computer with?
No, you'll get a check engine light.
So you can't even you'd have to have the harness and computer.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to have maybe a different turbo. Would you need the correct turbo at least?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty involved.
You might as well just buy a 1FT.
What's a 1FT?
Pick up.
A pick 'em up.
And take the bed off. Well, you could take the bed off of a pickup. It's not the same as a cabin chassis because the rear section is not designed for an upfitter, but there's still some stuff you can do. You can still put like a flatbed on there.
I mean, you can buy a 450 in 1FT. So,
like how kind of like what I got.
Yeah, you got a 1FT.
Here's the thing: my 450 and a 1FT is not even really like a 450 cabin chassis though. It's got a F350 suspension on it. It's got a 14,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, which is a lot less than a 450, like a true 450. The pickup truck 450 is kind of weird. It's a
350 and a half.
Yeah, it's a 350 and a half. It's got the 450 axles and tires. That's probably a perfect analogy. 450 tires and axles, 350 springs and frame. So, not quite a true, not like a cabin chassis. Those heavy rear springs and.
Have you seen that the new Bronco DS?
Yeah.
My God, that
you see how wide it is?
Bronco Raptor. It's like the frame is.
Oh, I didn't see the Raptor. No, I didn't see that one. I saw
3-liter.
I saw it. I didn't click it. Like I saw
it's a
thumbnail somewhere.
3-liter twin turbo, and they're saying they're projecting 400, but they don't have exact numbers. And
that's what I heard too.
Is that the same 3-liter that was in that Lincoln?
Oh,
it's the big one. It's the
37 inch.
Is that 2.7? Is that so is it like a 2.7 platform, but a 3-liter?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same. They called it when they were doing the review part of the same EcoBoost platform, except it's the big 400 horse one that they're releasing, and it's got the F-150 Raptor type design on the interior. And
Ford's used that engine before in Lincoln products.
Well, they have it in the ST, and they have it in the higher end Lincoln. They have it. Well, I don't know where else I think those are the only two so far that I know of, unless some of the police twin turbo. I think you can get. A-Rod didn't. I don't know who it was. It was you or somebody had like a police turbo or something version of the Explorer that had a 3-liter in it. Yeah. It was a special order or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it's like the frame is 8 inches wider, the body is 10 inches wider. 37s. What was it, Cody? 37s from the factory.
37s.
Ooh, 37s from the factory. That's nice.
Wow.
4,000 pound towing capacity. So towing went up with the Raptor.
I thought it was 4,500.
4,500, something like that.
It's 1,000 more than the previous. They said they wanted to give more towing capacity because the guys were saying they wanted more out of it, and they reinforced the rear receiver area. I think really the reinforcement of the rear receiver area was just 2 straps that they added to it when I looked at it, but I was like, this is crazy.
They need to make a Tremor R package.
Tremor R package. Wow.
Soften up the suspension, put 37s on it, If you think Ford is gonna stop and only put 37s on the Bronco Raptor,
That's a good point.
There's gonna be such an outcry that it's gonna end up happening. But I hope when they do it, that they brush up in making the ride a little bit better, like a Raptor should be. Not everybody uses their trucks like DS does. Some of us use our trucks like A-Rod does.
Yeah. Well, you could go off-roading though with some 37s. You could go take it to some trails.
I know, but
the
issue with that truck is that the issue with the Tremor I find is this. Number one, the limited slip front differential, there's nobody that knows how that works because it's not a torsion and it doesn't act like a true limited slip. You have to actually put your foot on the brake to get the front.
Really?
Yes, to get the front limited slip to work. So I've asked a bunch of people, and they go, even mechanics, and they go, yeah, I don't know.
How do you do it? Like you put your foot on the brake and
you just rest your foot on the brake, and when you do that, I know it's not electronic. It has to be mechanical, which lends to a torsion type front end, but it's not torsion. And once you put your foot on the brake and the caliper grabs, it reduces traction, and then the other wheel will kick in. But
so it's doing it. Is it? I wonder if it's doing it all with brakes.
Most of how that vehicle functions is with brakes, because there was like a huge video that took off where somebody was making fun of the Bronco. One of the dealers had it out in a sand pit, and they put these concrete barriers up, and the dealer was showcasing the new Bronco to the general public, and they were letting them come and drive it in the sand pit. And everything that was functioning on that vehicle with the four-wheel drive type system was all basically what Prophet just said. It's some kind of way that it uses the ABS module and braking control to actuate things. And there was one that the guy was making fun of, and he was like, listen to all the creaking sound coming from the trail turn assist function. That's normal. That's normal. That's because it's trying to apply up on your hero switches on the dash. The fourth one over from the left is trail turn assist. You literally just have to hit it. And whenever the system sees all the way to the left or all the way to the right, it knows to engage that rear wheel on that side to make that hard turn. So you're actually locking that wheel up like the old implements would when you were out in the field working. You can now turn that Bronco almost on a complete 90 with minimal slip. And that's that ABS and that braking control that's actually taking control of that. There's so much in these new Broncos that they don't have in any other vehicle. I think back in the day, the Land Cruiser or something used to have these options, people said, but there's no other manufacturer right now that I'm aware of that builds that type of technology into any of their four-wheel drive vehicles.
I wish I could just drive one. I haven't even get one.
You think about the limited slip, and they've kind of lost a lot of popularity because the advanced track has gotten to be so good, because it can now apply the brakes in any corner of the vehicle at any time to stabilize it, to keep it straight. It's kind of what the Bronco's doing. They're taking advantage of that advanced track technology and just saying, hey, we can make the truck pivot. We can make it pivot if we just grab this wheel, and it can spin around this wheel when you turn. But my 450's got a true limited rear differential in the back, and it's better than just having advanced track by itself. Just grabbing, the 250s, generally they come with an open differential in the back, and the advanced track is pretty good, because when you lose that traction, the power is going to go down the path of least resistance. And if it does that, if it senses that, then it grabs that wheel where it's least resistance. Well, then it's going to shoot the power to where you do have traction. So technically you don't need the limited slip, but it's still nice to have. It's still quicker.
Yeah, but DS, check this out, man. If you got a front end locker, if you could lock in, it's all about knowing how to drive your vehicle. You get people that buy these vehicles and they have no idea how to use four-wheel drive. It's a switch, and they end up spinning axles and the whole 9 yards, making everything a mess. But doing your snowplow business, you know how to use your four-wheel drive system correctly. You know not to turn the wheel, not to make sharp turns, the whole 9 yards. If you were given the option, if you installed a front locker in your trucks, it would be a whole different truck for you. You would truly be getting all 6 of those tires to do what they're gonna do. But if you offered that to the general public, then A-Rod and Ford Boss Me would be seeing blown front ends left and right and all day long.
Yeah.
But yet Dodge does it in their
Mhm.
TRX,
Mm-hmm.
and GM offers that option. I wish.
Well, here's a crazy thing. A lot of times when you get these cheaper 150s, like 4-wheel drive, lower trim level 150, you're gonna get a torsion in the front, regardless. And you can tell when if you're in 4-wheel drive and you're on dry pavement and you go to turn, it really binds up. It just freaking won't even. It gets all locked up on you. Then it's got a torsion. The Raptors, they'll advertise that they have torsions, and for whatever reason, it's just easier for them. I don't know, because it's an independent front end, a different set of parts. It's not a big deal for a Raptor to have a torsion, but the Super Duties, for example, snow plowing, you wouldn't really want a torsion in snow plowing. You would at least want a e-locker or something you can turn off, because when you're plowing snow, there's so many instances where you are just on dry pavement. You're actually you're beating the crap out of it. It is what it is. You can't always turn it off. A lot of those turns are on dry.
You know how many people, just like Prophet just said, do you know how many people come into the dealership all the time complaining about sounds coming from their 4-wheel drive and stuff like that? I'm like, can you demonstrate how you use your 4-wheel drive to me real quick? We have gravel in the back and snow back there. They'll take it and they'll put it on dry pavement, and they're see what I'm talking about? What are you doing? You don't even know how to use it properly. What are you doing? When you're trying to go 50 mile an hour in 4-wheel drive, why are you doing that? No wonder why you're blowing out CV axles and IWEs and everything else. You don't even know how to use the 4-wheel drive. It says right in the manual, don't engage 4-wheel drive on this type of pavement. And what do? They do it anyway.
I do it. Listen, these 4-wheel drives on these Super Duties are pretty robust. When it comes to plowing,
not the front end, DS. Not the front ends. Front ends are not designed to be used as a rear end is. The front end is the weak link.
I would disagree.
In the systems.
These front ends on these Super Duties, they're basically rear ends on the front. They're Dana 60s. Correct. And they're heavy duty. The components can take a beating. Now, when you're talking 150,000 miles or a snowplow truck, eventually that snowplow truck's gonna need a front end. It's gonna need ball joints. It's gonna need universal joints. It's going to happen eventually. But at the end of the day, when you're plowing snow, that front end is going to get dragged. That front end is going to get dragged on dry pavement. It's going to have 1,000 pounds on it. Plow.
I think the consensus here, DS, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's the consensus.
Absolutely.
You are right.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're going to plow, you can turn it off. You can turn it off here and there to take some of that stress off. But at the same time, that front end is getting dragged. It is. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
What do you think about?
You're freaking doing this. Well, you're plowing like this. You're doing a lot of that. You just
the Egr valve.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the same. I put that in the chat somewhere.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, I see it.
I don't think they're the same. I've seen it where they set codes because they put a non-cab chassis Egr on a cab chassis.
My 6.7 is coding low airflow and have changed the mass airflow, but no change. Also, I have no power until it runs for about 10 minutes. Any suggestions? When it runs for a few, it runs perfect.
Sounds like a turbocharger sticking.
I would suggest going through the pinpoint test for the coding that you're getting. And that should set you on the right path.
Yeah, like this guy says, people are doing 4-wheel drive launches and lock the rear diff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a 4-wheel drive on these trucks, the main thing is that the front tires are the same size as the rear tires. If that's out of whack, if you have brand new tires on the front and bald ones on the rear, that's probably enough to throw things out of whack. Now rotating diameters are different, and you're gonna bind up your transfer case. And that's not, you're gonna potentially damage those clutches in there. But when everything's the same size, the tires are the same size, they can be used. I mean, those CB
So
axles, all that
again,
stuff.
we're gonna go back to this. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but we're gonna go back to this. When these guys are launching these trucks in 4-wheel drive, they're launching it in a straight line. They're not trying to make turns and stuff like that. They don't have plows hooked up to the front. They're moving it in a direction where it can actually handle the load without binding anything up.
Exactly.
I get it. But we get customers that come in all the time with us, something as simple as, I just did an Explorer where they put brand new tires on it and they want to know why the PTU was puking out fluid. And I said, well, the last time you came in here, when I'm looking at the X time report, you had 8 30-seconds on this wheel. You had 2 30-seconds on this wheel. You had 4 30-seconds on this wheel. You had 7 30-seconds on this wheel, and you wonder why you're puking out fluid and your PTU is giving you a hard. It's because you're not keeping the maintenance and stuff up, and the PTU is really binding up and having to work, probably getting hot and everything else. Well, I didn't know tires can do that. Well, it absolutely can. People just don't know their systems.
Yeah. I'm honestly amazed by what the Super Duties can handle, because I put them through the worst situations, the things that like Ford boss is saying don't do, and you shouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, I mean, do you think I had 2 trucks go out? I can tell you right now that my driver didn't take that truck out of 4-wheel drive. It's in the snow. Most of it was snowy, but if he hits a dry patch of pavement, he can't like take it out and then put it back in. It's gonna get dragged at some point, and long term, it's gonna need an overhaul, but it shouldn't be anything major. Could be,
Have any of you looked under the hood of the Bronco? It doesn't seem very tidy under there.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's a mess. It looks like a spaghetti mess. It looks like somebody took a pot of spaghetti and it was in car parts form and it just dumped it over in the engine bay instead. Have an engine that makes some decent power and then figure out where it's just all over the place. You're absolutely correct. It is a spaghetti mess of parts.
430 gears.
Oh, 430 gears.
Got a drink.
430 gears.
I'm empty.
Hey,
Sorry.
A-Rod, I got something to tell you. What do you think about this? When I was asked once to define a diesel motor, so I thought about it and I went, okay, this is my definition of a diesel. It's a high performance motor built to run on garbage fuel. And when they asked me why, I said, well, it's high compression. It puts out a lot of horsepower, a lot of torque. And quite frankly, they used to race diesels back in the day. So can these diesel motors do all the things that we need, that we want them, and that we dream of them to do? Correct. But A-Rod, this is for you and Ford Boss Me. Maintenance, 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 maintenance. If you don't keep up on your fluids, it's a recipe for disaster, and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Dunzo.
People don't understand that.
It's the number one failure most of the time that I see is today. I don't know if how many of you caught it, but I was on the engineering team live with Marvel Mystery Oil today, and that was one of the things that was talked about is maintenance. Just in general, people don't keep up on their maintenance. They try to get everything that they can possibly get out of every ounce of oil. And some of that, I do have to agree, the manufacturer is misleading on their marketing side of buying that vehicle and what you can expect out of those fluids. Maintenance is the number one issue with most vehicles that come in with failures into the dealership is maintenance.
100%. I wrote down a note of all you 100 just now changing 100. Go down and smash that like. Let's get those likes up. If you guys could pick any improvement to the Ford Super Duty, let's say I'm about to have one of the Super Duty chief engineer, marketing, project program manager guy. He's about to come on, and we're going to think of some things that we would change on a Super Duty. If you guys are in a 17 and up, what is one of the things that annoys you about your truck? And if O'Connell's watching, I'm going to say your tremor running boards. Just kidding. What is something you would change? What would be something you would add? What annoys you about your Super Duty?
One thing that's been getting me is
Right here.
Bluetooth.
This is for my wife right here. Thank you. Check it.
Very nice. She made that?
No, she got it for me.
Oh, one thing that's annoying for me is Bluetooth radio. When you connect your phone, if you walk away from your truck and it's running, which I do all the time, all night, if you keep your phone in your pocket and that thing loses connectivity, it's gonna blast the radio full volume. It's like the volume that you use at Bluetooth is way higher. So if you lose connection, instead of it just turning off, it goes back to maybe AM or whatever other station. And the volume level's different. Like you turned it up because you're on Bluetooth. All of a sudden, it's just it could be the middle of the night. It could be anything. It just blasts the music. And then you're like, oh, it did it again. I gotta go turn it down. Like just make it turn off. If you lost connection, why does the computer feel like it needs to pick another station? Like, oh, we need to make sure something's playing for this occupant that just lost. Like, just turn it off. Just have nothing happen. And I think my wife's 150, when you lose connection, it just turns it off. But on my Super Duty, it's just like some station. Like that's
guy. He says, full rear window slide down. Ooh, kind of bringing back the Sport Track.
Some nostalgia right there.
Okay, I could do a full rear window slide. I like that.
I can one up on you. The Bigfoot.
What?
The Bigfoots.
What's that?
The F-250 Bigfoots?
Huh?
Oh my God.
You mean like the monster truck? Like the
Bigfoot trucks that Ford sold for 85 or 86?
Well, wasn't there another one like the was it the high top or high boy or whatever? I don't know what it was.
The old Bigfoot trucks had complete slide down windows.
No kidding.
That's where mine came from.
I didn't know that.
Talk about 80s technology coming back around.
AP dropping some knowledge tonight, baby. Nostalgia coming in.
Bigfoot cruisers.
Roof. If I was Fred, this is what Fred says. If I was a customer, I'd complain about fuse box locations.
Definitely.
I agree.
1,000.
I could feel you.
%.
Oh, you know what I would change?
Oh,
I would
God.
change
Here we go.
Here we go.
Ford boss, you're gonna
Sean, you already got
Curtains in your
Ford boss,
bathroom
you are
window.
gonna agree. No, you're gonna
I
agree
appreciate
with this.
anything you have to say, man.
You're gonna agree with this.
Sean, you're
I
only
would
allowed to
think-
change one thing. That's it.
I would change this over the audio thing. This will be the one thing. The freaking way they run the harness. I don't love it. I don't like it. The way the harness goes down the channels,
Yeah.
they're in the low part of the truck. If you bring water in the truck, if you have wet boots like me, I bring tons of snow. I've been trying to kick my feet, get it off. Don't bring it in the truck. Don't bring it in the truck.
There's no place like home. There's no
I
place
brought
like
this
home.
young kid. He starts kicking my running boards. He's just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, bro, if you don't stop kicking my running boards. He had my phone shaking on my mount. He's kicking my truck that hard. I'm like, kick yourself, kick your feet together. Why are you kicking the truck? But
Hey, man, it's either that running board or it's $4,000 in harnesses and labor. You pick. I mean, I'm going through it right now.
the way that's routed, I don't know if there's a better way. I don't know. I mean, trucks before they haven't always been built this way, with the harness going that like down in the channels and being basically underwater. And then if anything ever happens, if you ever get any leak in the truck, it works as way to submerge the harness. If there's ever a cab leak, which happens all the time, now the harness is submerged.
I'm going to disagree with that statement because even in my old box of a truck, It's ran down on the floorboard right there.
It's down in
Ooh.
the channels.
Be
Yeah,
able
just
to
let
pick
him-
what you
let
want
him-
to regen.
Let him stand on that box for a second, CP. Just let him have that soapbox.
Oh no, I'm gonna.
He
I'm
doesn't
gonna
need to
break
stand on
down.
the box. He
No, I
sits
don't
on the
remember.
GD
I don't
couch.
remember the harnesses getting saturated though. Like if there's a
Mine
leak,
gets
I don't remember.
saturated. It
Yeah,
still
my
gets
2000
soaked.
did too. My 2000, that water would just pour and just sitting there.
That
Just
old
sitting
nasty
on the
Dodge
harness.
Ram that I have is full of water right there. I got to clean it out all the time.
What's wrong
It's
with my
just-
Super Duty? Well, it annoys me that I don't have one. Well,
If they could figure out how to get it to drain, just like worst case scenario, if you get water in there, is there a way that we can make it come out so it don't soak the harness? Like so it just sits there?
With
Yeah,
some
I
big
mean,
nasty
geez.
holes.
Yeah, you kick your boots on the running boards and get in the truck.
Yeah.
We need
so
a
what
torque
if you,
spec.
What if you have what happened on my 19? The freaking
What
leak from the
torque spec?
factory.
axle
get a
nut,
leak from the
350
factory.
dually, 2014.
What axle nut? There's a bunch of nuts on the axles.
Probably the one on the end because they had to take the rotor off. If I were to guess, probably the ratcheting one.
I don't think there's an actual spec for that.
Noise.
What
noise.
year?
14.
I think
What
kind
axle?
of along the
He says hub nut. Sorry. Gibson.
What's he-
What axle?
Is it a Dana 80? Is it a Dana 110? Is it a S130?
What do you got? What do you got? Oh wow, you guys are you guys really come back with interaction. I like your guys' response. A lot of good ideas.
Oh, so the one guy says drill a hole. On my 19, I drilled a hole on both sides. I put a hole like in the front. You can't tell is there. Like when you look from under, you don't see a hole, but there's a hole here and there. So when water gets in, it immediately just comes out from the bottom. It just drains right out. So that's been working good.
Warranty voided for your truck only.
I mean, it's already out.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Fuck, I'm kidding.
No, it's already out. I mean,
I would give you some special warranty.
Oh boy, this is kid friendly.
Oh man, Sean, you just need to get those new weather techs that hold the water onto the floor mat.
maybe, man. If
They have
holds
that
it.
ridge on them.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are saying the cameras. Cameras, I guess, are sucking. They need to do something with the cameras. A lot of
I was
guys are
just-
saying
I was
cameras,
just backing out
cameras.
a brand new Lincoln the other day that's not even released to the public. It literally came from a magazine company over to the dealership for just general service and updates of all the modules. And it goes back to the company and they destroy them because it's a testing vehicle that they use to write their articles and stuff on. And I was going to back out and I was like, you mean to tell me this is a $70,000 SUV? What the hell is wrong with these cameras and these things? The new Super Duties, the F-150s, the new Lincolns. I freaking hate the cameras in them.
Yeah. It's crazy that they cost like $250.
$250. Have you not seen the price of a new camera? It ain't $250. Try like 3 times that price.
For real? Dang.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
some of
sent in
the-
the chat
I wish
here.
there was a way we could figure out that sensor. How do you figure out what actual camera lens, like from a sensor point? Like how, I wonder if you could just splice in a whole different camera. Because it's not a high-tech camera.
It's too big to just copy and paste into YouTube chat, so you have to talk about it.
7.3 with a turbo or supercharger factory option. Ooh.
They're gonna come out with something like that eventually. I'm sure that like some of the stuff that Cody's talked about before with like the Roush performance stuff and everything else. I'm sure they're gonna come out with something like that you can have.
Five-star tuning has.
I
They
wouldn't be
already had it.
surprised if they were coming out with a dual injection 7.3. If that
Yeah,
was
probably not.
planned. You don't think so?
No, I doubt it.
Is it too much displacement for that?
No, where are you gonna put the injectors?
I don't know. I never really seen the cylinder head. Is there a reason why they can't do it in a cylinder head?
There's probably not enough room.
Well, GM does it. with a 2-valve push rod V8.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Have you seen the inside of the cylinder head? There's like no room in there. Why wouldn't it be room?
I don't think there's going to be room, especially with the way the intake's designed.
Back in the day, when they came out with the 5-liter, they had planned for it to have direct injection from the start. I think at the start, from the first 5-liter, they were already planning on direct injection. They already kind of set aside a spot in the casting and everything where there was like a spot set aside where they would have direct injection come down the line. Now, I think the dual injection was something they really did on the fly just to address the carbon issues. They kind of, I guess, in engineering got together and came up with that as a solution because the fuel wasn't being sprayed on the back of the intake valves no more. But I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't have a plan to get that coming into the 7.3 because you get so much more compression and power with a direct injection system.
But why would you do it to a cheap engine that's going in motorhomes, box trucks, Super
I guess you could
Duties?
say that, but they're not necessarily leaving it as just this cheap engine. They're really pushing it as a premium alternative to a diesel. It's not really. I mean, and then at the same time,
it's a cheap engine. That's why they built it.
It's a cheap engine to manufacture. It's a cheaper engine to manufacture, but from a component standpoint, a lot of those components are still good or better components. Like you got a better crankshaft. It's actually forged now. It's got good internals, but the actual layout being a push rod engine is, yes, cheaper to build, cheaper to produce. It's not a cheap engine though.
Sean gets all these brilliant ideas. He sits here on the casting couch and just bah, bah, bah.
7.3 is a sweet engine. Like to say, oh, the 7.3, that's a cheap engine.
It's
like
literally why they built it.
But I think a lot of the principle behind that motor was to keep a lot of the simplicity from just a regular 2-valve pushrod engine and continue on. But it was made more for the fleet side, not really so much for the general public, even though the general public is going to buy it now. And it's just to keep it very simple and, not, like you said, not too much to manufacture and put in a vehicle and still be able to achieve those power numbers and stuff like that. Now, when you look at the design of that 7.3, it's compared to how big you would think it is, it's not a very large motor. It's
very similar to a GM.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's got the same type of camshaft set up in the center with the single phaser set up and everything. A lot of guys are saying that Ford should have taken note from GM a long time ago with that design and never discontinued the 2-valve pushrod setup because we could have had this a long time ago. But when you're talking about a manufacturing standpoint, now you're having to add another set of injectors to it. The whole casting, machining, engineering process is going to have to change. There's going to be more harness and stuff added to it. I think that defeats the purpose of it being cheap and taking a lot of that, those extra parts and things that go wrong away from that vehicle and keeping it so simple. And now you're adding that back to it.
Well, from a power standpoint, that could be one of the cheapest ways to get more power, considering you get way more compression. If you're trying to compete with a GM pushrod V8, which is doing dual injection on their pushrod V8s already, how are you going to compete with them if you're not going to do what GM is already doing, what all these other companies are already doing?
No, what kind of power are you talking about? From a factory standpoint, you're with another set of injectors. You're not actually making all that much more power unless you're going to engineer that into it.
You are, because you can crank up the compression a lot more.
You can crank up maybe some ignition timing or fuel, but then if you're talking compression, then you would have to go back to redesigning the piston dish, piston design, and everything else. Why would they do all that? It's supposed to be a simple fleet type of design.
I don't know. Why would they build? Well, why wouldn't, if they were that? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I can only see it for like Mustang.
Yeah, something like that. Sure.
And it would be like Shelby. It would be on the high end. It wouldn't be something. Even then, I mean,
I've always been excited about direct injection ever since they first started doing it. I mean, you look at what they're getting, the reason they can get all this compression out of a turbocharged engine on regular fuel, all that's direct injection. Before direct injection, you weren't able to do any of that. So
We're
when
not
you
talking-
look at,
we don't want to talk about direct inject anymore. Fred's got a good question here. Ford Boss Me, you need to answer this. This is really important.
What the fuck? I mean, excuse me. How do you perform a washer solvent service? Maybe you take that diluted, heavily watered down drum of shit that was delivered to the dealership and you stop putting it in the customer's vehicle and you flush all that garbage out and put some good stuff in there.
Oh man, that's pretty good.
One more thing about direct injection. I'm gonna leave it alone. Somebody said something. I'm gonna leave it alone after this. Somebody said supercharge it, walk away. When you're supercharging an engine that's not direct injected, the gains aren't that great. When you supercharge like a 5 liter with direct injection, that's when you start seeing the 700 and all that. That's what I'm talking about. You can't boost without direct injection. You can't get that much boost without having that system. That's no more on direct injection.
Where the hell did you get this information at?
When you off show, because we're not talking about it no more, look at 2 5 liters and look at supercharger kits. See how much the power gains are pre-direct injection and how much they are post-direct injection.
We're not saying you can't make more power, but if I went literally just off what you said just now, I'd be like, huh?
What I'm saying is if you're gonna supercharge a 7.3,
oh shit,
then it's not that advantageous because it doesn't have direct injection. Like you wouldn't even want to spend the money to do it because it's not gonna make that much. It's not gonna make sense power to actually doing the modification.
Man, you put a damn Kenny Bell booster pump on there. Put a set of Roush injectors in that sucker. Put a supercharger on it. Tune it. And let that sucker eat. You'll be all right.
Sing.
Hey, Rod, you got a supercharged V8, right?
And it ain't direct injected.
It ain't direct injected. But how much did you gain?
Like 145 horse.
You don't gain as much without direct injection, but unless you're gonna do freaking some, I don't know.
Oh man.
Whoa, to my intake valves.
All this direct injection talk. I might have to go, guys. I'm getting too excited.
I mean, the EcoBoost was non-direct injection for the whole first generation of it.
Yes, it was. They've always been direct injection.
Oh, sorry. I lied.
That's what I'm saying. Again, I don't know. Like, CP, what are you saying here? They weren't dual injection. They were direct injection. Yeah.
Direct injection is turning into 430 gears slowly.
I mean, what about 2.3s back in the day? They were turbocharged, port injected.
They were.
Yeah.
I think they were always direct injected too. If they were.
No, 2.3s were port injected back in the day. DS.
How far back you going?
I'm talking Mustang. I'm talking Fox body. Turbo.
Yeah, they didn't make that much power to displacement though.
How about
like today's
F-150?
And you had to probably put premium fuel.
F-150 Lightning, supercharged, port injected.
And not that much power to displacement.
Cobra.
Yeah, you wouldn't want those today. Like you wouldn't want to put that against today's technology.
Who the fuck?
You wouldn't want to. The power is not there. The power is not there on those engines.
Oh God.
He's going right down for Boss's lane.
Starting to look a little shunny.
Back in the day,
those
turbocharged engines back in the day. That's old technology. That you're not putting regular gas in that, and you're not.
Do you know how much power those guys were making with port injected back then, and just upgrading the supercharger, putting a better set of injectors in there, a better fuel pump or a booster pump setup? They were making numbers that these cars today wouldn't even be able to fucking handle.
Hey, they're calling you out, DS. They calling you out, DS.
Usually by now he's laying down.
You better read the stats, boy.
Dude, I don't know. I've done a lot of research on it. When you look at the compression. So back in the day when they used to add these power adders, they'd have to back the compression down. They had to do all kinds of stuff they'd actually lower it. So those production engines with superchargers, they had to come out of the factory with less compression. They had to do things to try to keep them from pinging, and with direct injection, it's avoiding all that.
Do we want to look up what
So
the
adding a
compression
power,
ratios were?
having a power adder, look up compression ratios. The supercharged and turbocharged engines would always come out with a little bit less compression. And when you build one, the builder, whatever, they set them up with a little less compression because you're adding a power adder. With the direct injection is allowing you to have like a 10-to-1 compression ratio and still add a power adder, which means you ultimately get way more power.
Okay, that doesn't make sense because I mean 5-liter is a high compression engine too.
Exactly.
It's
And
linked.
when you add
Before DI is a high compression engine also.
yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a 12-to-1. Now it's a 12-to-1.
Still 10,
Before-
that's high compression.
It's 10-to-1. Okay, now look up how much power you get from a non-directed 5-liter that's supercharged compared to a direct injected 5-liter.
Are those headphones too tight?
I mean, the
I think
horsepower
the-
only changed like 40 horsepower.
No, I'm saying if you add a power
between
adder.
the second and
No,
just
no.
listen. You go apples to apples. Gen 2 5-liter to Gen 3, there's only like 30 horsepower difference. That's not enough to warrant injectors. DIs.
Yeah, because they don't have the power adder. So
but
if you take, if
you gotta start at the same point.
you're building you're supercharged. You're talking superchargers. If you're going to supercharge the first gen without direct injection, how much are you going to make? Now you're going to supercharge the one with direct injection. Huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
so
not
funny.
saying there's nowhere in any of this conversation did we say you can't make more power. Your whole argument was that it would be better with it. Okay.
No, it would be
that
better
minimal-
it would be better with the direct injection for guys who are going to supercharge these trucks or whatever.
Is there a Super Duty question we can talk about? And
I'm
then
about, I feel like the
I think
guy
we
on
should-
Billy Madison that was asking me questions at the little thing they had going.
Why has nobody addressed A-Rod when he did his earlier video today with all that junk up under the truck? I genuinely felt bad for him.
Oh,
You could hear the disappointment in his voice when he saw all that mess he was gonna have to work in.
And so these are the worst parts of years and times when you get cars that coming in and just sop. I don't even care about the rain, but when it comes in with the snow, it's like the first thing you do. It's cold as shit out. The truck's frozen. Pull it on the hoist really quick. Get the hoist arm set. The ground's dry. Get everything lined up and try to get underneath it and start doing your stuff before it starts juicing all over, and then you see it just as a complete lake power stroke for the rest of the day between that and oil and salt, and no wonder my floor is all messed up.
I felt bad for you, A-Rod.
This guy goes, laugh my ass off. This guy knows nothing about supercharger setups.
Okay. All right, yeah. Well, I'll accept that. I don't know anything about superchargers.
I wanted to grab my prick head, dude. That's
giving you a hard time, DS.
He's right. I'm wrong. Direct injection would not help a 7.3. It doesn't help a 5-liter, and it's.
This guy says DS. A KNN sticker adds 25 horsepower.
It does.
Leaf blower.
It does.
Everyone reading these
Leaf blower,
comments smiling.
leaf blower,
Damn right.
supercharger.
Didn't like wasn't it like Cletus McFarland or somebody did the leaf blower thing?
He did an electric supercharger on a Saturn.
Yeah.
He just did a head gasket with Flex Seal.
Christ.
Did it work?
It did work until he put nitrous on it.
Oh man.
Well,
It worked until it didn't.
They say if you've got two really, really, really good machine surfaces to mate properly, I'm talking about like perfect mating, that you pretty much don't need anything in between two perfectly machined surfaces. So any kind of sealant in between would probably take up for whatever little bit's there until you start to abuse it with nitrous. But
yeah,
I've seen guys, old school dudes, just take an orange RTV and seal up their manifolds and everything with it, man. This shit they used to do back in the day is crazy.
Yeah.
I had seen there's a dude at the racetrack with an old C10 truck, and it was like a 355 forged crank, and he had, I don't know if it was like 456 years or something in it, and that's how his manifolds were on the truck. Was on a set of Edelbrock E Street heads with orange silicone sealing his factory manifolds on these E Street heads.
He sealed his exhaust manifolds with silicone.
With silicone. That's what he said. I've been doing this since Papa showed me, and my uncle and my dad and everybody else. And he said, I don't use gaskets, I use silicone. And that's how he ran that C10 down the track, was with orange silicone.
Wow.
But it wasn't direct injected or supercharged.
No, none of that. None of that.
I'm just poking at DS. That's all.
What kind of oil did he run?
They should get rid of direct injection. Like, why even do it? All these extra injectors.
Emissions.
Oh, you can. Yeah, I was just gonna say you can.
It doesn't add
Sam
power.
for
It's
that.
just for emissions. Yeah.
That's it.
Hey guys, I'm gonna
Lastly,
go. I want to
Armed
tell you,
Prophet,
God
thank
bless
you.
you guys, and
Appreciate
A-Rod, thank
you.
you for having me on. You made my
Appreciate
day.
you, man.
You
Thanks,
two
buddy.
superstars. You take care of yourself, man.
My
I'll
sergeant in
watch you guys.
arms.
That's right. That's Ford
Thanks,
Boston.
man. I appreciate it, brother.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Tracker Pete, does Ford Boss sleep? Every time I turn my CPU on, he's on here live feed. Brother, I work, man. I work right now. In the times that we're going through, where work is scarce, when there's work, I'm typically trying to work, man. I gotta work.
Make hay while the sun is out.
That's right. That's right. Flex Seal. I think that might be it. I got my improvements. The heated seat I want to talk about. Guys are asking about the fuel tank noise. Got a good video coming out Friday. Let me just remind myself what we have in the archives. In the archives there. What's the date today? 25th?
26.
Yeah. This is gonna be kind of a, may not pertain to you, may pertain to you, but definitely interesting for your Power Stroke. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. As always, thanks so much for coming out. I do look forward to Wednesdays. I really like hanging with the crew here. I like helping you guys fix your trucks. And, it's cool to see you guys respond to all of our interactions, whether they're stupid, fun, going back and forth. It's all in good brotherly love. Let us know what you think in the comments, and make sure to check out the short tomorrow, and we will see you on